Good evening. Take a deep breath and gently allow your attention to turn inward. Today, you will be guided on a silent journey through the deepest, most peaceful mysteries of your own body. There's no rush, there's no destination, just the quiet discovery of how you work, how each cell, each beat, each breath is a small masterpiece of nature. Close your eyes if you wish, or keep them open, focused on a distant point where light dissolves into shadow. What matters is that you are here, present, receptive to the silent enchantment that dwells in every fiber of your being. The human body is a universe in miniature. As you remain still, sitting or lying down, billions of microscopic events happen within you without any conscious effort. Your heart beats, your lungs expand.
Your cells talk to each other in a chemical language as old as life itself. And all of this happens in harmony, in a rhythm that you rarely notice, but that sustains every moment of your existence. Tonight, we will explore these rhythms. We will walk through the interior landscapes of the human body, discovering the most relaxing, most fascinating, most profoundly peaceful facts about how you are made, how you work, and how you are, in essence, a living manifestation of the cosmos. You feel the weight of your body where it rests, perhaps on a bed, perhaps in a chair, perhaps on the floor. And as you feel this weight, you may begin to realize that your body is, at this very moment, performing tasks of almost incomprehensible complexity. But don't worry about understanding everything. Just observe. Just feel. Because the beauty of the human body is not only in its efficiency, but in its ability to function without you having to think about it. It's a gift, a silent miracle. Let's start with the heart. That organ you rarely remember exists unless you're running or excited. The heart beats, on average, about 70 times a minute. That means 100,000 beats a day, 3 billion beats over an average lifetime. And each beat is a microscopic explosion of perfect coordination. Muscle cells contract in synchrony, valves open and close, blood is pumped through miles of blood vessels, carrying oxygen and nutrients to every corner of your body. And all of this happens without you having to command, without you having to think. Your heart beats because it knows how to beat. It carries within it the memory of billions of years of evolution, a rhythmic dance that began in the first multicellular organisms and has been perfected until it reached you. You can now place your hand on your chest and feel that beat. Feel the gentle, steady, patient pulse. There is no urgency there, just a rhythm, a compass that accompanies you from before you were born, from the moment your heart began to beat, still tiny, in your mother's womb. And this rhythm will continue, uninterrupted, until the end. It is a silent, faithful presence that never rests, but that, paradoxically, is the very essence of rest. Because the heart does not strive, it simply is. It beats because beating is its nature. And in that nature, there is a lesson of acceptance, of flow, of surrender to what is necessary and inevitable. The interesting thing is that the heart doesn't beat alone because of impulses from the brain. It has its own internal pacemaker, a small group of cells called the sinoatrial node, located in the wall of the right atrium. These cells generate electrical impulses autonomously, creating the heart rhythm without the brain needing to send constant commands. Of course, the brain can influence the heart, speeding it up in moments of stress or emotion, slowing it down in moments of calm. But the fundamental truth is that the heart carries within it the ability to beat independently. If you could somehow remove the heart from the body and keep it in ideal conditions, it would continue beating for some time, moved only by its own cellular will. This is both strange and wonderful. It means that within you, there is an organ that possesses a primitive form of autonomy,
a spark of life that does not depend entirely on central command. And this autonomy extends to many other parts of the body. The autonomic nervous system, for example, regulates countless functions without you needing to intervene consciously. It controls digestion, breathing, temperature regulation, pupil dilation, saliva production. While you sleep, while you dream, while you are deeply unconscious, your body continues working. The enzymes in your stomach break down food, the kidneys filter the blood.
The liver processes toxins. The lungs exchange gases. And all of this happens in perfect silence, in a coordination so refined that any failure would be immediately felt. But failures are rare. The human body is remarkably resilient, remarkably self-regulating. Now turn your attention to your breath. You breathe. Inhale and exhale, perhaps 12 times a minute, maybe more, maybe less. And each breath is an exchange between you and the world. Air enters through your nostrils, goes down your trachea, forks into the bronchi, spreads through the bronchioles until it reaches the alveoli, small air sacs enveloped by blood capillaries. There, the oxygen from the air passes into the blood, and the carbon dioxide from the blood passes into the air. It's a simple exchange, but an essential one. Without it, you'd have only a few minutes of consciousness before everything went dark. And yet, you don't need to think about breathing. Breathing happens. It's commanded by a part of the brain called the medulla oblongata, which constantly monitors carbon dioxide levels in the blood and adjusts the respiratory rate as needed. But breathing is also a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, between the voluntary and the involuntary. Because you can, if you want, take control of your breath. You can inhale deeply, hold your breath, exhale slowly. You can alter the rhythm, the depth, the speed. And by doing so, you directly influence your emotional state. Slow, deep breaths activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch of the autonomic nervous system responsible for relaxation and recovery. They reduce heart rate, lower blood pressure, promote a sense of calm. That's why so many meditative and contemplative practices focus on the breath, because breathing is a doorway to deeper states of consciousness, to quieter layers of the mind. So breathe slowly. Feel the cool air entering, feeling perhaps a slight coolness in your nostrils. Feel your lungs expanding, your diaphragm descending, creating space. And then feel the exhalation, the warm air leaving, taking with it tensions, worries, unnecessary thoughts. Each exhalation is a small surrender, a small release. And with each respiratory cycle, you deepen a little more into this state of mindful rest, of serene presence. Within the lungs, something truly extraordinary happens. The alveoli, these tiny air sacs, are so numerous that if you could open them and stretch them side by side, they would cover an area the size of a tennis court. Imagine that. Within the limited space of your chest, there's a gas exchange surface equivalent to dozens of square meters. This is possible because the alveoli are incredibly small and incredibly numerous. There are about 300 million of them in each lung. And each one is enveloped by a dense network of blood capillaries, so thin that the red blood cells pass through them in single file, almost touching the wall of the alveolus, facilitating the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. This biological engineering is a testament to the efficiency of nature, to how it solves problems of space and function with elegance and simplicity. And the red blood cells, these small disc-shaped cells that carry oxygen, are themselves fascinating. They have no nucleus. This is unusual. Most cells in the body have a nucleus, where the DNA is stored. But red blood cells sacrifice the nucleus to have more space for hemoglobin, the protein that binds to oxygen. Each red blood cell contains about 270 million hemoglobin molecules, and each hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 oxygen molecules. It's a mass transport operation carried out by cells that live only about 120 days before being recycled by the spleen and liver. And during those 120 days, each red blood cell makes countless trips through the body, passing through the lungs to load up on oxygen, then traveling through the arteries to the tissues where it delivers the oxygen and collects carbon dioxide, before returning through the veins to the heart and, finally, to the lungs again. It's a continuous cycle, an endless journey, carried out by trillions of cells that you never see, but that are the very reason why you can think, feel, move. You notice perhaps a sensation of warmth. That's your body temperature, kept consistently around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. This thermal regulation is another marvel of biological design. The human body constantly produces heat as a byproduct of metabolism. Each cell, by burning glucose or fat to produce energy, releases heat, and that heat needs to be regulated, kept within a narrow range, because the enzymes and proteins that sustain life function best at specific temperatures. When it's cold, the body reduces blood flow to the skin, concentrating heat in the core, and may begin to shiver, rapidly contracting the muscles to generate more heat. When it's hot, the body increases blood flow to the skin, allowing heat to dissipate, and activates the sweat glands, which produce sweat. The evaporation of sweat cools the skin and, consequently, the body. All of this is managed by the hypothalamus, a small region in the brain that acts as a biological thermostat, continuously adjusting cooling or heating strategies as needed. And it's comforting to know that you don't need to monitor your temperature. You don't need to decide when to sweat or when to shiver. The body knows. It senses the thermal variations and responds automatically. You can trust this inner wisdom, this intelligence that doesn't need words, that doesn't need thoughts, that simply acts silently, efficiently, to keep you alive and comfortable. Let's now explore the digestive system, this long journey that food takes inside you. When you eat, when you chew and swallow, you are initiating a process that can last from 24 to 72 hours, depending on what you ate and how your body responds. The food goes down the esophagus, propelled by waves of muscular contractions called peristalsis. You don't control this movement. It happens automatically, ensuring that food reaches the stomach even if you are upside down. In the stomach, food is mixed with hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes, transforming into a pasty substance called chyme. This process can take a few hours. The stomach, with its thick muscular walls, grinds and dissolves the food, preparing it for the next phase of digestion. Then, the chyme passes into the small intestine, where most of the nutrient absorption happens. The small intestine is long, about 6 meters, and its internal surface is covered by millions of small projections called villi, which enormously increase the area of absorption. Inside the villi, there are blood capillaries that capture the dissolved nutrients and transport them to the liver, where they are processed and distributed to the rest of the body. The pancreas and gallbladder secrete enzymes and bile, respectively, which help to break down fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. It's teamwork, a collaboration between organs, each playing its specific role, each contributing to the transformation of food into energy and raw material for life. And what is not absorbed continues its journey through the large intestine, where water is reabsorbed and the waste is compacted before being eliminated. In the large intestine, trillions of bacteria live in symbiosis with you. This intestinal microbiota, also called gut flora, is essential for your health. These bacteria help digest fiber, produce vitamins like vitamin K and some B vitamins, and play a crucial role in the functioning of the immune system. They compete with pathogenic bacteria, preventing them from establishing themselves. They train the immune system, helping it to distinguish between real threats and harmless substances.
And they even influence the brain through what is called the gut-brain axis, a bidirectional communication between the digestive system and the central nervous system. You are, in a way, an ecosystem. You are not just an individual, but a community. Within you live organisms that are not human, but that are essential to your humanity. And this symbiotic relationship is a reminder that life is never isolated. It is always relational, always interdependent. You exist because countless other life forms exist in you and around you. And this interdependence is in itself a form of deep connection with the natural world. While the body digests, while the heart beats, while the lungs breathe, there is another organ working tirelessly in the background: the liver. The liver is the largest internal organ of the body, weighing about 3 pounds, and performs more than 500 different functions. It filters the blood, removing toxins and unwanted substances. It produces bile, essential for the digestion of fats. It stores glycogen, a form of reserve energy that can be quickly converted into glucose when needed. It synthesizes blood plasma proteins, including albumin and clotting factors. It metabolizes drugs and alcohol, transforming them into substances that can be eliminated by the body. And it does all this silently, without you realizing, without you needing to think it. The liver is a chemical processing plant working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, maintaining the internal balance of the body. And perhaps the most amazing thing about the liver is its ability to regenerate. If a part of the liver is removed, whether by surgery or by disease, the remaining tissue can grow back, restoring it, the organ to its original size and function. This regenerative power is rare among human organs. It suggests that the liver possesses a resilience, a vitality that goes beyond simple maintenance. It can rebuild itself. It can renew itself. And that, in a way, is a metaphor for life itself. Even when damaged, even when wounded, we have within us the capacity for healing, for reconstruction, for a return to equilibrium. The kidneys, too, are remarkable filters. You have 2 kidneys, located in the back of your abdomen, below your ribs. They filter about 180 liters of blood per day, removing waste products and excess water, to form about 1 to 2 liters of urine. Each kidney contains approximately 1 million tiny filtration units called nephrons. Each nephron is composed of a glomerulus, where the blood is filtered, and a tubule, where the composition of the filtrate is adjusted, reabsorbing useful substances like glucose and salts and secreting additional waste products. The end result is urine, which is stored in the bladder until it is eliminated. The kidneys do much more than just produce urine. They regulate the balance of electrolytes in the body, such as sodium, potassium, and calcium. They control the pH of the blood, keeping it within a narrow range. They produce hormones, including erythropoietin, which stimulates the production of red blood cells in the bone marrow, and renin, which helps regulate blood pressure. The kidneys are essentially the guardians of internal chemical balance. And they do this work with remarkable precision, continually adjusting the composition of the blood to ensure that all the cells in the body have the ideal chemical environment to function. And all of this happens while you rest, while you read, while you listen, while you simply exist. Your body is working. Not in a tiring way, not in a stressful way, but in a natural, fluid, harmonious way. Each organ, each tissue, each cell plays its role in a silent symphony of life. Now, let's turn our attention to the brain. This mysterious organ, this universe of billions of neurons, this command center that is also the home of consciousness, thoughts, emotions, memories. The brain weighs about 3 pounds, represents only about 2% of body weight, but consumes approximately 20% of the body's total energy. It is energetically expensive, but that reflects its importance, its complexity, its relentless activity.
Even when you sleep, the brain does not completely rest. It continues processing information, consolidating memories, regulating bodily functions. The brain is composed of about 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of other neurons through synapses. These connections form immensely complex networks, capable of storing information, processing stimuli, generating thoughts and emotions. And what is extraordinary is that these networks are not fixed. They are constantly changing in a process called neuroplasticity. When you learn something new, when you practice a skill, when you have a striking experience, the synaptic connections strengthen or weaken, new synapses form, others disappear. The brain adapts, molds itself, reconfigures itself in response to experience. And this means that you are not stuck in old patterns of thought or behavior. You can change. You can grow. You can literally rewire your brain through attention, practice, conscious intention. One of the most fascinating areas of brain research involves brainwaves. The brain produces electrical activity that can be measured through an electroencephalogram, or EEG. This activity varies in frequency, creating distinct patterns that correspond to different states of consciousness. Beta waves, with a frequency between 12 and 30 Hz, are associated with normal wakefulness, concentration, active thinking. Alpha waves, between 8 and 12 Hz, appear when you are relaxed but alert, with your eyes closed in a state of quiet calm. Theta waves, between 4 and 8 Hz, are present in states of deep meditation, drowsiness, or during REM sleep when you dream. And delta waves, between 0.5 and 4 Hz, dominate during deep sleep when the body recovers and regenerates. What is interesting is that you can, through practices like meditation, mindful breathing, or simply deep relaxation, influence these brainwaves. By calming the mind, by focusing attention, by slowing down thoughts, you can transition from a beta state to an alpha state, and perhaps even to theta. And in these slower states, there are tangible benefits: reduced stress, improved creativity, increased sense of well-being. The brain, far from being a rigid machine, is a musical instrument, a tallycall that you can learn to play, adjusting its frequency, its tone, its internal melody. And inside the brain, there's a small but powerful structure called the hypothalamus. We've already mentioned the hypothalamus briefly in relation to temperature regulation, but its functions go far beyond that. The hypothalamus is the main link between the nervous system and the endocrine system. It produces hormones that regulate the release of hormones by the pituitary gland, which in turn controls other glands in the body, such as the thyroid, the adrenals, and the gonads. The hypothalamus regulates hunger and satiety, thirst, sleep and wakefulness, sexual desire, and responses to stress. It is, in many ways, the maestro of vital functions, coordinating hormonal and nervous responses to maintain homeostasis, internal balance. And the pineal gland, also located in the brain, produces melatonin, a hormone that regulates the sleep-wake cycle. As night falls and light diminishes, melatonin production increases, signaling to the body that it's time to sleep. In the morning, when light returns, melatonin production decreases, promoting awakening. This circadian rhythm, this cycle of approximately 24 hours, is fundamental to health. It synchronizes biological processes with the external environment, ensuring that you sleep when you need to sleep, that you wake up when you need to wake up, that you have energy during the day and rest during the night. And sleep. Sleep is one of the most relaxing things the body does. During sleep, the brain processes the day's experiences, consolidates memories, clears metabolic waste through the glymphatic system, a network of channels that removes toxins from the brain. The body also recovers during sleep. Tissues are repaired, growth hormones are released, the immune system is strengthened. Sleep is not a waste of time. It is an investment in health, in mental clarity, in emotional well-being. And interestingly,
During REM sleep, when you dream, the body enters a state of temporary muscle paralysis called atonia. This prevents you from physically acting out the movements of your dreams. It's a smart protection, ensuring that you remain safe while your mind explores imaginary worlds. Dreams, by the way, are a fascinating mystery. No one knows for sure why we dream, but there are theories. Some researchers believe that dreams help to process emotions, to integrate experiences, to solve problems creatively. Others suggest that dreams are simply the result of random brain activity during sleep, and that the mind tries to make sense of these chaotic signals by creating narratives. Regardless of the explanation, dreams are a window into the unconscious, into the depths of the psyche, where desires, fears, hopes, and memories mingle in symbolic and emotionally charged images. And there's something deeply comforting in knowing that, even when you're not conscious, your mind continues working, exploring, creating. Let's now consider the senses, those doors through which the world enters you. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. Each sense is a form of perception, a way of translating physical stimuli into subjective experiences. Vision, for example, begins when light enters the eye, passes through the cornea and the lens, which focus the image on the retina, a layer of photoreceptor cells at the back of the eye. These cells, called cones and rods, convert light into electrical signals that are transmitted to the brain through the optic nerve. The brain then interprets these signals, building the visual perception you experience. And what is extraordinary is that you do not see reality directly. You see a construct, a representation created by the brain from sensory data. The brain fills in gaps, corrects distortions, creates a coherent and stable image of the world, even if the information that arrives is incomplete or ambiguous. Hearing works similarly. Sound waves enter through the outer ear, vibrate the eardrum, which transmits these vibrations to 3 small bones in the middle ear, called the hammer, anvil, and stirrup. These vibrations, in turn, are transferred to the cochlea, a spiral-shaped structure filled with fluid in the inner ear. Inside the cochlea, there are hair cells, which convert the vibrations into electrical signals sent to the brain. And again, the brain interprets these signals, creating the experience of sound. You can hear music, voices, the wind in the trees, the murmur of a stream. Each sound is information about the world, but it is also an emotional experience, an internal resonance that can calm, excite, inspire, console. Smell is, perhaps, the most primitive sense, most directly linked to emotions and memory. Odor molecules in the air enter through the nose and bind to receptors on the olfactory cells, located in the olfactory epithelium, on the roof of the nasal cavity. These receptors send signals directly to the olfactory bulb, which is connected to the limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for emotions and memory. That's why a smell can instantly evoke a vivid memory, transporting you back to a specific moment in the past. Smell bypasses normal cortical pathways, directly accessing the deep emotional structures of the brain. And that makes smell a powerful sense, capable of influencing mood, evoking nostalgia, creating a feeling of comfort or alertness. Taste works in conjunction with smell. When you eat, food molecules dissolve in saliva and come into contact with taste buds on the tongue. Taste buds contain receptors for 5 basic tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. These receptors send signals to the brain, which combines this information with olfactory signals to create the complete taste experience. That's why when you have a cold and your sense of smell is impaired, food tastes bland. Taste alone is limited. It is the combination of taste and smell that creates the sensory richness of eating. And touch, that sense that encompasses the entire body, is mediated by a variety of receptors in the skin. There are receptors for pressure, temperature, pain, vibration. These receptors send signals to the brain, creating a sensory map of the body.
a representation of where you are being touched, of how the texture feels, of whether something is hot or cold, comfortable or uncomfortable. And touch is deeply social. Human touch, a hug, a hand holding yours, can release oxytocin, a hormone associated with bonding, trust, love. Touch can soothe, can heal, can communicate emotions that words cannot express. It is a primal language, predating speech, predating writing, a form of connection that all mammals share. And within the skin, there is something even more remarkable. You have pain receptors, called nociceptors, that detect harmful stimuli, such as extreme heat, excessive pressure, or irritating chemicals.
When activated, these receptors send signals to the brain, creating the sensation of pain. And although pain is uncomfortable, it is essential. It is an alarm system, alerting you to potential or actual tissue damage. Without pain, you wouldn't know to pull your hand away from a hot surface. You wouldn't know that a wound is infected. You wouldn't know that something in your body needs attention. Pain is protective. And while it is natural to avoid pain, it is important to recognize its value, its function, its message. But there's also another aspect of touch that is deeply relaxing: soft touch, gentle pressure, the feeling of warmth.
When you wrap yourself in a soft blanket, when you lie on a comfortable surface, when you feel the warm water of a bath enveloping your skin, touch receptors send signals that the brain interprets as safe, as comforting. This type of tactile stimulation can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing stress, lowering heart rate, promoting relaxation. That's why massages, hot baths, comfortable clothes have a calming effect. They speak directly to the nervous system, saying, you are safe, you can relax, you can rest. And there's another fascinating phenomenon related to touch and proprioception, which is the sense of the body's position in space. You know, without having to look where your arms and legs are. You can touch the tip of your nose with your eyes closed. This is possible thanks to proprioceptors, receptors located in muscles, tendons, and joints, which constantly monitor stretching, tension, position. These signals are integrated by the brain to create an internal map of the body, a body awareness that allows for coordinated and precise movements. And when you are at rest, when you are still, this proprioception contributes to the feeling of being anchored, of being present in the body, of being here, now, in this moment. Muscles, by the way, are extraordinary tissues. There are 3 types of muscles in the human body: skeletal muscles, which you control voluntarily and which move the skeleton; smooth muscles, which line internal organs and blood vessels, working involuntarily; and cardiac muscle, which forms the heart. Skeletal muscles are composed of muscle fibers, long cylindrical cells that contain contractile proteins called actin and myosin. When a muscle receives a signal from the nervous system, these proteins slide over each other, shortening the muscle fiber and generating force. That's how you move, how you lift objects, how you walk, run, dance. But muscles are not just for movement, they also produce heat. When you shiver from cold, you are contracting and relaxing your muscles rapidly to generate heat. And muscles store glycogen, an energy reserve that can be mobilized during exercise. In addition, muscles play a role in regulating metabolism. Active muscle tissue burns calories, even at rest, contributing to the body's energy balance. And there is something deeply satisfying about using your muscles, about feeling your body in motion, about experiencing strength and flexibility. But there is also a deep pleasure in letting your muscles rest, in allowing them to relax completely, in feeling the tension dissolve, the weight of your body being supported by the floor or the bed effortlessly, without resistance. This muscle relaxation is one of the keys to deep rest, to restorative sleep, to physical and mental recovery. The bones, which form the skeleton, are another biological marvel. They are strong, capable of supporting enormous loads. but also surprisingly light. Bones are not dead structures. They are living tissues, constantly remodeling. Cells called osteoblasts build new bone tissue, while cells called osteoclasts resorb old bone tissue. This dynamic balance allows bones to adapt to mechanical stress, becoming denser and stronger in areas of heavy use and losing density in areas of disuse. Bones also serve as a reservoir of minerals, especially calcium and phosphorus, which can be mobilized when needed. And bone marrow, found inside some bones, is where new red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets are produced. The skeleton protects vital organs. The skull protects the brain. The rib cage protects the heart and lungs. The spine protects the spinal cord. And at the same time, the skeleton provides structure, support, anchor points for the muscles. Without the skeleton, you would be a shapeless mass. With the skeleton, you are an erect structure, able to move through the world, to interact with the environment, to express yourself physically. And the joints, where bones meet, allow movement. There are fixed joints, like those of the skull, where the bones are fused. There are semi-mobile joints, like those of the spine, which allow some movement but are stabilized by ligaments and discs. And there are mobile joints, like those of the shoulder, elbow, knee, hip, which allow a wide range of motion. These joints are lined with cartilage, a smooth, elastic tissue that reduces friction. They are lubricated by synovial fluid, which nourishes the cartilage and facilitates the sliding of the bones. And they are stabilized by ligaments, bands of connective tissue that connect bone to bone, and by tendons, which connect muscle to bone. There is an elegance in the engineering of the human body. Each component has a function. Each function contributes to the whole. And all this happens in a silent harmony, a coordination that you rarely question, rarely appreciate, but which is the basis of every moment of your life. Now, let's consider the immune system, that invisible army that protects you from pathogens, from bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. The immune system is composed of organs, tissues, and cells scattered throughout the body. White blood cells, or leukocytes, are the soldiers of this army. There are several types of leukocytes, each with a specific function. Neutrophils are the first to respond to infections, engulfing and destroying bacteria. Lymphocytes include T cells, which kill infected or cancerous cells, and B cells, which produce antibodies, proteins that bind to specific pathogens, marking them for destruction. Macrophages are large cells that consume cellular debris and pathogens. And there are many other types, each playing a role in the body's complex and multi-layered defense. What is extraordinary about the immune system is its ability to learn. When you are exposed to a pathogen for the first time, the immune system takes some time to mount an effective response. But once the threat is neutralized, some B and T cells remain as memory cells. If the same pathogen invades again, these memory cells recognize it immediately and mount a rapid and powerful response, often preventing you from getting sick. This is how vaccines work. They expose the immune system to a weakened or inactive form of a pathogen, allowing the body to develop immune memory without the risks of a real infection. And the immune system doesn't just fight against external invaders. It also constantly monitors the body's cells, looking for damaged or abnormal cells. Cancer cells, for example, arise regularly in the body due to errors in DNA replication. But the immune system, most of the time, identifies and destroys these cells before they can form tumors. It's a surveillance, a silent protection that happens without you realizing it. And there's something comforting in knowing that you have this defense system, that you're not alone, vulnerable, helpless, that inside you there are sophisticated mechanisms refined by billions of years of evolution, dedicated to keeping you healthy, to protecting you, to repairing damage, to fighting against threats. And when you take care of your body, when you sleep well, eat nutritious foods, manage stress, you are supporting this system, allowing it to function as best as possible.
The lymphatic system, by the way, is an integral part of the immune system. It's a network of vessels that transports lymph, a clear fluid that contains white blood cells, especially lymphocytes. The lymph is filtered through the lymph nodes, small bean-shaped structures located in various parts of the body, such as the neck, armpits, groin. In the lymph nodes, pathogens and abnormal cells are captured and destroyed. The lymphatic system also helps to drain excess fluid from tissues, returning it to the bloodstream, and transports fats absorbed from the intestine to the blood. And the spleen, an organ located on the left side of the abdomen, also plays a role in the immune system. It filters the blood, removing old or damaged red blood cells and pathogens. It stores white blood cells and platelets, and it produces antibodies. The spleen is like a filtering station, ensuring that the blood remains clean and healthy. There is also the thymus, a small gland located behind the breastbone, which is crucial during childhood and adolescence. The thymus is where T cells mature, learning to distinguish between the body's own cells and foreign cells. With age, the thymus decreases in size and becomes less active, but the T cells already produced continue to circulate and protect the body. The human body is, in many ways, a miracle of self-preservation. It has backup systems, redundancies, repair mechanisms. When one part fails, others compensate. When there is damage, there is healing. And this resilience, this ability to adapt and recover, is one of the most inspiring characteristics of life. Let's now talk about cells, these fundamental units of life. You are made of about 37 trillion cells. Each cell is a living entity in its own right, with its own membrane, its own genetic material, its own organelles. The cell membrane regulates what enters and leaves the cell, maintaining a stable internal environment. The nucleus contains the DNA, the genetic code that instructs the cell on how to function, how to produce proteins, how to reproduce. The mitochondria, often called the powerhouses of the cell, produce ATP, the energy molecule that powers virtually all cellular processes. The endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus are involved in the synthesis and processing of proteins. Lysosomes digest cellular waste. And there are many other organelles, each with a specialized function. Cells are constantly working. They synthesize proteins, repair damaged DNA, produce energy, communicate with other cells through chemical signals. And when a cell is irreparably damaged or becomes dysfunctional, it often enters a process called apoptosis, or programmed cell death. Apoptosis is an orderly and controlled way of removing cells, preventing damaged cells from accumulating and causing problems. It is a quality control mechanism, ensuring that only healthy and functional cells remain. And DNA, this double helix-shaped molecule, is the repository of all genetic information. DNA is composed of sequences of 4 nitrogenous bases: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. The order of these bases encodes instructions for the production of proteins, which are the molecular machines of life. Proteins catalyze chemical reactions, provide structure, transport molecules, defend against pathogens, regulate gene expression. Almost everything that happens in a cell is mediated by proteins. And what is fascinating is that, with the exception of mature red blood cells and some other specialized cells, all the cells in your body contain the same DNA. The difference between a skin cell and a liver cell is not in the DNA, but in which genes are active, which proteins are being produced. This process of gene regulation is incredibly complex, involving chemical signals, transcription factors, epigenetic modifications. And this complexity allows a single genome to give rise to hundreds of different cell types, each with its own function, its own identity. And you can think of each cell as a small universe. Inside it, there is frenetic activity, a constant molecular dance. But seen from the outside, the cell seems peaceful, stable, fulfilling its role without drama,
without fanfare. And considering that trillions of these cells are working in perfect coordination within you, it's almost impossible not to feel a sense of awe, of reverence for the complexity and beauty of life. Another relaxing aspect of the human body is its capacity to feel pleasure. Pleasure isn't just a reward, it's information. It signals that something is beneficial, be it nutritious food, social interaction, rest, physical activity. The brain has a reward system centered on structures like the nucleus accumbens and the ventral tegmental area, which release dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with motivation and pleasure. When you do something pleasurable, dopamine is released, creating a sense of satisfaction, of well-being, and this sensation motivates you to repeat the behavior. But pleasure isn't just dopamine. There are other neurotransmitters and hormones involved. Serotonin, for example, is associated with mood, the feeling of contentment and tranquility. Adequate levels of serotonin promote emotional well-being and help regulate sleep and appetite. Endorphins, often called the body's natural opioids, are released in response to exercise, laughter, music, touch. They produce a feeling of euphoria, reduce pain, promote relaxation. Oxytocin, as we've already mentioned, is released during affectionate physical contact, strengthening social bonds and creating feelings of trust and security. And the body, when healthy, when balanced, is capable of experiencing pleasure in simple and everyday ways. The pleasure of a tasty meal, the pleasure of a hot bath, the pleasure of lying in a comfortable bed after a long day, the pleasure of listening to music that resonates with the soul, the pleasure of being in nature, feeling the sun on your skin, the wind on your face, the smell of the earth. These pleasures are birthrights. They are part of the human experience, accessible to all, regardless of external circumstances. And cultivating the ability to perceive and appreciate these simple pleasures is a form of wisdom, a form of gratitude, a way of being fully alive. And there's also the pleasure of curiosity, of learning, of discovery. The brain is naturally curious. It seeks novelty, patterns, meaning. When you learn something new, when you solve a problem, when you understand a complex concept, there's a release of neurotransmitters that creates a sense of satisfaction. Knowledge is, in itself, rewarding. And that's one of the reasons why human beings are so prone to explore, to question, to create. Because the pursuit of understanding is pleasurable, it's meaningful, it's a fundamental part of what it means to be human. Now, let's explore the skin, the largest organ of the human body. The skin covers the entire surface of the body, weighing about 9 pounds and covering an area of approximately 22 square feet. It has several layers. The epidermis, the outermost layer, is composed mainly of cells called keratinocytes, which produce keratin, a tough protein that makes the skin durable and waterproof. The dermis, the middle layer, contains collagen and elastin fibers, which give the skin its strength and elasticity, as well as blood vessels, nerves, sweat glands, and hair follicles. And the hypodermis, the deepest layer, is composed mainly of adipose tissue, which insulates the body, stores energy, and cushions impacts. The skin plays several vital functions. It protects the body against pathogens, chemicals, physical trauma, and ultraviolet radiation. It regulates temperature through sweating and vasodilation or vasoconstriction of blood vessels. It synthesizes vitamin D when exposed to sunlight. It excretes waste through sweat. And it is a sensory organ, detecting touch, pressure, temperature, pain through the countless receptors scattered across its surface. And the skin is constantly renewing itself. The cells of the epidermis migrate from the basal layer, where they are produced, to the surface, where they eventually die and flake off. This process takes about 4 weeks. You are literally always renewing yourself, always creating a new surface, a new interface with the world. And there's something poetic about that.
The skin is a border, but also a permeable membrane. It separates you from the world, but also connects you to it. It receives information, transmits sensations, expresses emotions through blushing, paleness, goosebumps. And the skin ages, of course. Over time, collagen production decreases. The skin loses elasticity, wrinkles appear. But this isn't a flaw. It's part of the natural process of life. Each wrinkle tells a story, records a repeated expression, a lived emotion. And although society often values youth and smooth skin, there is beauty also in aged skin, in the texture that reflects a life lived, accumulated experiences, time elapsed. And there's something comforting in taking care of the skin, washing the face with fresh water, applying a gentle moisturizer, feeling the soft texture, the subtle scent. These personal care rituals are forms of self-compassion, of respect for the body, of acknowledging that you deserve comfort, deserve attention, deserve kindness. Hair, which grows from follicles in the skin, is made of keratin, the same protein that makes up nails and the outer layer of skin. Hair growth occurs in cycles. Each follicle goes through an active growth phase, then a transition phase, and finally a resting phase, after which the hair falls out and a new one begins to grow. That's why it's normal to lose about 50 to 100 strands of hair per day. Hair has no nerves, so cutting it doesn't hurt, but the scalp is richly innervated, making it sensitive to touch. A scalp massage can be incredibly relaxing, stimulating blood circulation, releasing tension, promoting a sense of well-being. And nails, those hard plates of keratin that protect the fingertips, grow constantly from the nail matrix, the area under the cuticle. Fingernails grow faster than toenails, about 3 millimeters per month. And although nails seem simple, they are useful tools, allowing you to pick up small objects, scratch, peel, manipulate with precision. Every detail of the human body, no matter how small, has a function, has a reason to be. And when you start paying attention, when you observe with curiosity, with admiration, you discover layers and layers of complexity, of beauty, of built-in intelligence. Let's now consider the endocrine system, the network of glands that produce hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers that travel through the bloodstream, influencing distant cells and organs. They regulate growth, metabolism, reproduction, mood, stress response. The pituitary gland, often called the master gland, located at the base of the brain, secretes various hormones that control other endocrine glands. The thyroid, located in the neck, produces hormones that regulate metabolism, influencing the rate at which cells convert nutrients into energy. The adrenal glands, located above the kidneys, produce cortisol, a stress hormone, and adrenaline, which prepares the body for the fight or flight response. The pancreas secretes insulin and glucagon, hormones that regulate blood glucose levels. And the gonads, the ovaries in women, and the testicles in men, produce sex hormones that influence development, reproduction, desire. The endocrine system works in feedback loops. When the levels of a hormone in the blood reach a certain level, they signal the gland that produces it to reduce or increase secretion. This maintains balance, homeostasis. And although hormones are tiny molecules, they have profound effects. They can alter mood, influence behavior, modify perception. And understanding that many of your emotional and physical states are influenced by hormones can be liberating. It means you are not at the mercy of incomprehensible forces. There is an underlying biology. There are mechanisms that can be understood, and in some cases, influenced through lifestyle choices, such as diet, exercise, sleep, stress management. Cortisol, for example, is essential. It helps the body respond to stress, mobilizing energy, increasing alertness, suppressing non-essential functions. But when cortisol levels remain chronically elevated due to prolonged stress,
this can have negative effects, such as suppression of the immune system, sleep disturbance, accumulation of abdominal fat, difficulty concentrating. Therefore, managing stress is not just a matter of psychological well-being, but also of physical health. And there are many ways to reduce stress: meditation, deep breathing, exercise, contact with nature, positive social interaction, creative hobbies. And melatonin, which we already mentioned, is another fascinating hormone. It is produced by the pineal gland in response to darkness, preparing the body for sleep. And melatonin not only induces drowsiness, but also acts as an antioxidant, protecting cells against damage caused by free radicals. Exposing yourself to natural light during the day and minimizing exposure to artificial light, especially blue light from electronic screens at night, can help regulate melatonin production, promoting deeper and more restful sleep. And there is something deeply reassuring in knowing that the body has rhythms, cycles, patterns. It is not a linear machine, but a dynamic system, always changing, always adjusting, always seeking balance. And respecting these rhythms, aligning with them, is a way of living in harmony with one's own nature. The human body is also capable of internal communication, extremely sophisticated. Cells don't exist in isolation. They constantly communicate through chemical, electrical, mechanical signals. Hormones, as we've seen, are a form of long-range communication. But there are also neurotransmitters, which transmit signals between neurons through synapses. There are cytokines, signaling molecules used by the immune system. There are growth factors, which instruct cells to divide, differentiate, specialize. There are cell adhesion molecules, which allow cells to recognize and connect. And this communication is bidirectional. The brain sends signals to the body, but the body also sends signals to the brain. There's a constant upward pathway of information about the state of internal organs, about the chemical balance of the blood, about the position and movement of the body. And the brain integrates all this information, constantly adjusting its responses, keeping everything in order, ensuring that each part functions in coordination with the others. And there is also communication between you and the external environment. You breathe air, drink water, eat food. You absorb sunlight, hear sounds, feel temperatures, and all of this influences your internal state. You are, in a very real sense, inseparable from the environment. You are an open system, constantly exchanging matter and energy with the world around you. And this interdependence is another reason to care for the environment, to respect nature, because your health and the health of the planet are deeply intertwined. Let's talk now about something that may seem simple, but is profoundly important: water. The human body is made up of about 60% water. Water is the universal solvent of life. It is the medium in which chemical reactions occur, the vehicle through which nutrients and waste are transported, the regulator of body temperature. Every cell contains water. Blood is mainly composed of water. Lymph is composed of water. The cerebrospinal fluid, which bathes the brain and spinal cord, is composed of water. Water has unique properties that make it essential for life. It has a high heat capacity, which means it can absorb or release large amounts of heat without drastically changing temperature. This helps stabilize body temperature. It has high surface tension, which allows it to move through small tubes, like blood vessels and plant capillaries. It is an excellent solvent, capable of dissolving many substances, facilitating chemical reactions. And it participates directly in many metabolic reactions, being a reagent in hydrolysis, a process that breaks down complex molecules into simpler molecules. You constantly lose water through urine, feces, sweat, breathing. And this water needs to be replenished. Thirst is a sign from the body that hydration is low, but it is better not to wait for thirst to drink water. Staying well hydrated improves cognitive function, helps regulate temperature, promotes digestion, keeps skin healthy, aids in the elimination of toxins. And there is something deeply simple and satisfying about drinking a glass of fresh water. Feeling the liquid going down your throat, feeling your body receive it, absorb it. It is a basic act of self-care, of nutrition, of respect for the body. And water, so abundant, so accessible in most of the world, is a reminder that the most fundamental needs of life are often the simplest. Another fascinating aspect of the human body is its ability to heal. When you cut yourself, when you break a bone, when you have an infection, the body immediately initiates repair processes. A wound on the skin, for example, triggers a cascade of events. First, platelets aggregate at the site of the injury, forming a clot that stops the bleeding. Then, white blood cells migrate to the area, fighting any pathogens that may have entered. Cells called fibroblasts begin to produce collagen, building new tissue. New blood vessels grow to supply oxygen and nutrients. And eventually, the skin regenerates, often leaving only a small scar, or none. Bone fractures also heal. When a bone breaks, specialized bone cells begin to build new tissue, first forming a callus, a temporary structure that stabilizes the fracture. Over time, this callus is remodeled, replaced by mature, dense bone tissue. And the healed bone can be as strong as, or even stronger than, the original bone. This healing capacity is a testament to the resilience of life. Of course, there are limits. Some damage is permanent. Some diseases are chronic. But within its capabilities, the body does everything it can to repair itself, to restore itself, to return to balance. And supporting this process through adequate rest, nutrition, minimizing stress, is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. And there is also emotional healing. The brain, as we have seen, is plastic, capable of change. Emotional traumas leave marks, but these marks don't have to be permanent. Through therapy, contemplative practices, positive experiences, healthy relationships, it is possible to rewire patterns of thought and emotion, create new neural connections, strengthen circuits associated with well-being and resilience. Emotional healing may be slower, more subtle than physical healing, but it is equally real, equally possible. And there is an interesting parallel between physical and emotional healing. Both require time. Both require patience. Both may involve some temporary discomfort before improvement. Both are active processes, not passive. The body needs to work to heal a wound, and the mind needs to work to process and integrate difficult experiences. And in both cases, there is wisdom in trusting the process, in not rushing, in allowing things to unfold at their own pace. Let's now explore the concept of homeostasis, this constant tendency of the body to maintain stable internal conditions. Temperature, blood pH, glucose levels, osmotic pressure, electrolyte concentration, all of this is maintained within narrow ranges through multiple feedback mechanisms. When something deviates from the ideal, sensors detect the change and trigger compensatory responses. If blood glucose rises after a meal, the pancreas releases insulin, which facilitates the entry of glucose into cells, reducing blood levels. If glucose falls, the pancreas releases glucagon, which stimulates the liver to release stored glucose. If blood pH becomes too acidic, the kidneys excrete more acid, and the lungs increase the breathing rate to eliminate carbon dioxide. If the pH becomes too alkaline, the reverse processes occur. This self-regulation is automatic, continuous, tireless, and it happens without you having to think, without you having to monitor, without you having to control. The body knows what to do. It has, incorporated into its structure and function, the parameters of what is healthy, what is balanced, what is necessary, and it works constantly to maintain these parameters. And there is a philosophical lesson here. Just as the body seeks homeostasis, perhaps emotional and mental life also seeks some form of balance. There will be moments of joy and moments of sadness, moments of energy and moments of fatigue, moments of connection and moments of loneliness. And perhaps the goal is not to eliminate the extremes, but to allow them to exist, trusting that, with time, there will be a natural return to a center, to a state of relative equilibrium. Homeostasis does not mean absence of change, but rather the ability to adapt to change, to respond appropriately, to return to what is sustainable. Another relaxing fact about the human body is its capacity to experience beauty. Aesthetic perception, the ability to be moved by art, music, nature, is not an evolutionary luxury. Studies suggest that the appreciation of beauty activates areas of the brain associated with reward and pleasure, including the orbitofrontal cortex. When you see a stunning sunset, when you hear a moving melody, when you contemplate a work of art that touches your soul, your brain responds. Dopamine is released. There is a sense of elevation, of transcendence, of connection with something greater. And beauty doesn't have to be grandiose. It can be in the delicate shape of a leaf, in the symmetry of a face, in the harmony of colors in a garden, in the rhythm of falling rain, in the glow of light filtered through a curtain. The ability to perceive beauty is a form of attention, a form of openness to the world. And cultivating this ability is cultivating a constant source of joy, of renewal, of inspiration. And interestingly, the creation of beauty is also deeply satisfying. Drawing, painting, writing, composing music, dancing, cooking, gardening, any creative act involves the brain in unique ways. There is focus, but there is also flow, that state in which you are so absorbed in the activity that time seems to disappear. There is expression, the externalization of something internal, of feelings, thoughts, visions. And there is accomplishment, the satisfaction of having created something that did not exist before, of having given shape to an idea, of having left a mark on the world. Creativity is not the exclusive domain of professional artists. Every person has creative potential. And expressing this potential, even in simple and personal ways, is a way of honoring life, of actively participating in the creation of meaning, of beauty, of value. The human body also has circadian rhythms, cycles of approximately 24 hours that regulate numerous biological functions. These rhythms are controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, which acts as a biological clock. This clock is mainly synchronized by light, but also by other environmental cues such as temperature and feeding times. Circadian rhythms influence sleep and wakefulness, body temperature, hormone secretion, metabolism, immune function, even gene expression. When circadian rhythms are aligned with the environment, when you sleep when it's dark and wake up when it's light, the body functions more efficiently. But when there is misalignment, as in the case of night work, jet lag, or excessive exposure to artificial light at night, there can be negative health consequences, including sleep disorders, metabolic changes, increased risk of certain diseases. And there's something comforting in recognizing and respecting these natural rhythms, in going to bed at regular times, in waking up with daylight when possible, in allowing the body to follow its natural impulses of activity and rest. Modern life often demands that you ignore these rhythms, that you stay awake when you're tired, that you eat when you're not hungry, that you force yourself to be productive when the body asks for rest. But the more you can align with your natural rhythms, the easier it becomes to live, the smoother existence becomes. And within these circadian rhythms, there are also ultradian rhythms, shorter cycles that occur throughout the day. For example, there's a cycle of about 90 minutes of activity and rest, which manifests during sleep as REM and non-REM sleep cycles,
and during wakefulness as natural fluctuations in energy and concentration. Paying attention to these cycles, taking breaks when energy dips, taking advantage of energy peaks for important tasks can improve productivity and well-being. Let's now consider something seemingly simple but deeply meaningful: posture. How you hold your body influences not only your physical health, but also your emotional state. Studies show that adopting an expansive posture with your chest open, your shoulders back, your head up, can increase feelings of confidence and reduce stress. On the other hand, a slumped posture with your shoulders drooping forward, your head down, can contribute to feelings of sadness or insecurity. That doesn't mean you should force a rigid or artificial posture, but it means that there is a two-way relationship between body and mind. The mental state influences the body, and the body influences the mental state, and you can use this relationship consciously. When you feel down, experimenting with lifting your chest, taking a deep breath, relaxing your shoulders can surprisingly change how you feel. It's a simple tool, accessible at any time, at no cost, without special equipment. And posture also affects physical function. Proper posture distributes body weight efficiently, reducing strain on muscles, ligaments, and joints. It facilitates breathing, allowing the lungs to expand fully. It improves digestion, preventing compression of the abdominal organs. And it promotes an appearance of vitality, of presence, of engagement with the world. Movement in general is essential for health. The human body evolved to move. Hunting, gathering, walking long distances, carrying loads, all this was part of ancestral life. Modern sedentary life, with long hours of sitting, is unnatural for the body, and the consequences include muscle weakness, loss of bone density, cardiovascular problems, weight gain, joint stiffness, chronic discomfort. But movement doesn't have to be intense or strenuous to be beneficial. Walking is one of the best forms of exercise. It's low impact, accessible, can be done almost anywhere. Walking improves cardiovascular health, strengthens muscles, keeps joints flexible, promotes mental health. And there's something meditative about walking, in the repetitive rhythm of the steps, in the attention to the environment, in the sensation of the body moving through space. Stretching is also important. It keeps muscles flexible, improves range of motion, reduces tension. And stretching can be a contemplative practice, a way to connect with the body, to listen to its messages, to respond with kindness and care. And exercise releases endorphins, those neurotransmitters that create sensations of well-being and euphoria. Even a brief session of physical activity can improve mood, reduce anxiety, increase energy. Exercise also improves sleep, strengthens the immune system, increases self-confidence. And it offers an opportunity to be present, to focus on the body, to get out of your head and into the moment. But it's equally important to balance movement with rest. The body needs time to recover, to repair tissues, to rebuild energy. Rest is not laziness. It is an essential biological necessity. And there are different forms of rest. There's physical rest, which is sleeping or simply lying down. There's mental rest, which is disconnecting from demanding cognitive tasks, allowing the mind to wander, daydreaming. There's sensory rest, which is reducing stimuli, being in silence, in calm environments. There's emotional rest, which is being in environments where you can be authentic, where you don't have to mask feelings. There's social rest, which is having time for yourself, away from social interactions. There's creative rest, which is allowing yourself to be without producing, without creating, simply being. And there's spiritual rest, which is connecting with something larger, with purpose, with meaning, with the sacred. All these types of rest are important, and different people, at different times, need different forms of rest. Learning to recognize what you need and giving yourself permission to rest is a valuable skill, a form of self-compassion.
There's also something deeply relaxing in simply being in nature. Studies show that spending time in natural environments reduces stress, improves mood, increases creativity, strengthens the immune system. There's even a term for it in Japanese, Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, the practice of spending time in forests to promote health and well-being. And it's not necessary to be in a remote forest. Even an urban park, a garden, the bank of a river can offer benefits. Nature offers a different quality of attention. It's not the focused, directed attention required by complex tasks. It's a gentle attention, fascination, where you can observe effortlessly, where the stimuli are varied but not overwhelming. There are natural sounds like birdsong, the murmur of water, the whisper of the wind. There are textures, colors, organic shapes. There are gentle movements, leaves swaying, clouds gliding, light changing. And all this calms the nervous system, reduces activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain associated with analytical thinking and worry. And there's also the question of scale. In nature, you are small. The trees are taller, the mountains are bigger, the sky is vast. And there's something humbling, in the best sense, in recognizing your smallness. This can reduce the sense of ego, diminish the perceived importance of personal problems, create a broader perspective. You are part of something larger, and this awareness can be liberating, comforting, inspiring. The human body responds to nature in profound and ancient ways. There are evolutionary theories that suggest that humans have an innate affinity with natural environments because these environments were where the species evolved, where it found food, water, shelter. This affinity, called biophilia, may explain why nature has such consistently positive effects on well-being. And even representations of nature, such as images, recorded sounds, can have beneficial effects, although less potent than direct experience. Listening to sounds of rain, of ocean waves, of birds singing can reduce stress, improve concentration, facilitate sleep. Seeing images of natural landscapes can improve mood, reduce perceived pain in clinical settings. Another source of deep relaxation is music. Music has the unique ability to affect the emotional state. It can energize or calm, evoke memories, create emotional environments, and the brain processes music in complex ways, involving auditory areas, but also motor, emotional, and memory areas. When you listen to music, multiple regions of the brain activate and synchronize. Slow music with regular rhythms, consonant harmonies, can reduce heart rate, lower blood pressure, reduce cortisol levels. It can facilitate the transition to sleep, deepen meditation, create a space of inner rest. And there's no universally relaxing music. Preferences vary. But in general, songs with a slow tempo, between 60 and 80 beats per minute, close to the resting heart rate, tend to be calming. And making music, playing an instrument, singing, is also deeply satisfying. It involves fine motor coordination, auditory attention, emotional expression, and there's a meditative quality in practicing music, in the repetition, in the necessary focus, in the fusion between you and the sound you are creating. Singing, especially, has unique benefits. Singing requires respiratory control, which naturally activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Singing in a group creates social synchronization, strengthens bonds, releases oxytocin. And singing, even alone, even imperfectly, is a form of expression, of releasing emotions, of fully inhabiting the body and the voice. Laughter is also a fascinating bodily response. When you laugh, muscles throughout the body contract. Breathing becomes irregular, with deep inhalations followed by rapid exhalations.
Lauter relacia Indorable. Saber que o tempo é limitado pode motivá-lo a perseguir seus sonhos, a valorizar seus relacionamentos, a viver com mais intenção. E o luto, a resposta emocional à perda, é uma experiência humana universal. Cada pessoa é enlutada de forma diferente. Não há um jeito certo ou errado de sentir. Não há um cronograma para superar a dor. O luto pode envolver uma variedade de emoções: tristeza, raiva, culpa, confusão, alívio. Pode afetar o sono, o apetite, a energia. Pode tornar difícil concentrar-se, tomar decisões, sentir prazer. Mas o luto não é apenas dor, é também amor. É uma forma de honrar a pessoa que se foi, de manter sua memória viva, de reconhecer o impacto que ela teve em sua vida. E o luto pode levar ao crescimento. Pode levá-lo a reavaliar suas prioridades, a fortalecer seus relacionamentos, a encontrar um novo propósito. E pedir ajuda durante o luto não é sinal de fraqueza, é sinal de sabedoria. Procurar apoio de amigos, familiares, grupos de apoio, terapeutas, pode fazer uma grande diferença. Compartilhar sua dor, expressar seus sentimentos, receber compreensão e compaixão pode ajudá-lo a curar, a seguir em frente, a encontrar esperança. O corpo humano é resiliente. Ele tem uma capacidade incrível de se adaptar, de se curar, de se recuperar. Mesmo após traumas físicos ou emocionais, mesmo após perdas profundas, mesmo após decepções amargas, ele pode encontrar um caminho de volta ao equilíbrio, à saúde, à felicidade. E a resiliência não é uma característica inata. É uma habilidade que pode ser aprendida, que pode ser cultivada, que pode ser fortalecida. Envolve autoconhecimento, autocompaixão, otimismo, esperança, conexão, propósito, flexibilidade, aceitação. E a resiliência não significa ausência de dor. Significa capacidade de superar a dor. Significa capacidade de aprender com a dor. Significa capacidade de transformar a dor em força, em sabedoria, em compaixão. E o corpo humano não é perfeito. Ele tem suas limitações, suas vulnerabilidades, suas imperfeições. Mas é também uma maravilha, é uma obra de arte, é um presente precioso. E cuidar do seu corpo, honrar o seu corpo, amar o seu corpo, é uma forma de cuidar de si mesmo, de honrar a si mesmo, de amar a si mesmo. É uma forma de viver uma vida mais plena, mais saudável, mais feliz. É uma forma de se conectar com a sua essência, com a sua alma, com o seu propósito. E a vida é uma jornada de aprendizado, de crescimento, de descoberta. Uma jornada com altos e baixos, com alegrias e tristezas, com desafios e oportunidades. E o corpo humano é o seu veículo nessa jornada. Cuide bem dele, ele vai te levar longe. Dolphins reduces stress hormones, strengthens the immune system. And laughter is contagious. Hearing someone else laugh can make you laugh, creating loops of shared joy. And laughter is, in a way, a coping mechanism. It allows you to confront the absurd, the unexpected, the incongruous, without fear, without threat.
It creates psychological distance, allowing you to observe difficult situations from a less heavy, less serious perspective. And while not everything is a cause for laughter, cultivating the ability to find humor, lightness, absurdity in everyday life can make life more bearable, more enjoyable. Crying is also an important bodily response. Emotional tears, different from the tears that lubricate the eyes or that are produced in response to irritants, contain proteins and hormones related to stress. Crying can be a way of releasing emotional tension, of processing intense feelings, of communicating vulnerability. And interestingly, after crying, many people report feeling calmer, lighter. There is a catharsis, an emotional purification. And allowing yourself to cry, not suppressing tears, is a form of self-compassion. It is recognizing that you have feelings, that these feelings are valid, that they deserve to be expressed. Emotional suppression, the habit of hiding or denying feelings, can lead to chronic tension, psychological problems, physical symptoms. Allowing emotions to flow, to be felt, to be released, is healthier,
more human. The human body is also capable of deep intimacy and connection. Loving touch, a prolonged hug, physical proximity to someone you trust, all of this releases oxytocin, reduces stress, creates feelings of safety and belonging. And human beings are fundamentally social. Connection with others is a need, not a luxury. Healthy relationships, whether with family, friends, romantic partners, colleagues, contribute significantly to well-being, longevity, happiness. And the quality of the connection matters more than the quantity. It's not about having many acquaintances, but about having a few deep, authentic relationships where you can be seen, heard, understood, accepted. And these relationships require time, attention, vulnerability, reciprocity. They are built through shared experiences, meaningful conversations, mutual support in difficult times, joint celebration in good times. And there is also the possibility of connection with yourself. Spending time alone, without distractions, without constant entertainment, can be uncomfortable at first, but it can also be deeply revealing. In silence, in solitude, you can hear deeper thoughts, subtler feelings, truer desires. You can know yourself better, understand your patterns, your motivations, your values. And this self-knowledge is the basis for authenticity, for living according to who you really are, not who you think you should be or who others expect you to be. And there is a deep peace in authenticity, in alignment between internal and external, in not having to wear masks, in being able to simply be. The human body ages. This is inevitable. Over time, cells divide less efficiently. Telomeres, the protective ends of chromosomes, shorten. Damaged proteins accumulate. Organ function gradually declines. The skin loses elasticity. Muscles lose mass. Bones lose density. The senses become less sharp. Memory may become less reliable. But aging is not just loss. It is also gain. Gain of experience, of wisdom, of perspective. Older people often report greater satisfaction with life, greater emotional stability, less tendency to worry about small things. There is an acceptance that comes with age, an understanding that life is finite, that time is precious, that what really matters is connection, meaning, love. And there are ways to age well. Staying physically active, mentally engaged, socially connected, all of this contributes to healthy aging. Learning new things, cultivating hobbies, maintaining relationships, all of this protects against cognitive decline, maintains a sense of purpose, promotes well-being. And there is a beauty in all phases of life. Childhood, with its curiosity and wonder. Adolescence, with its energy and search for identity. Adulthood, with its productivity and creation. Old age, with its wisdom and acceptance. Each phase has its challenges and its gifts. And honoring each phase, without resisting, without trying to hold on to the past, is a way of flowing with life, of accepting impermanence, of embracing change. And death, although it is a subject that many cultures avoid, is a natural part of the life cycle. Every living organism dies. And the awareness of mortality can, paradoxically, make life more adorable. Knowing that time is limited can motivate you to pursue your dreams, to value your relationships, to live with more intention. And grief, the emotional response to loss, is a universal human experience. Each person grieves differently. There is no right or wrong way to feel. There is no timeline for overcoming pain. Grief can involve a variety of emotions: sadness, anger, guilt, confusion, relief. It can affect sleep, appetite, energy. It can make it difficult to concentrate, make decisions, feel pleasure. But grief is not just pain. It is also love. It is a way of honoring the person who is gone, of keeping their memory alive, of recognizing the impact they had on your life. And grief can lead to growth. It can lead you to reevaluate your priorities, to strengthen your relationships, to find a new purpose. And asking for help during grief is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom. Seeking support from friends, family, support groups, therapists can make a big difference. Sharing your pain, expressing your feelings, receiving understanding and compassion can help you heal, move forward, find hope. The human body is resilient. It has an incredible ability to adapt, to heal, to recover. Even after physical or emotional traumas, even after deep losses, even after bitter disappointments, it can find a way back to balance, to health, to happiness. And resilience is not an innate characteristic. It is a skill that can be learned, that can be cultivated, that can be strengthened. It involves self-knowledge, self-compassion, optimism, hope, connection, purpose, flexibility, acceptance. And resilience does not mean absence of pain. It means ability to overcome pain. It means ability to learn from pain. It means ability to transform pain into strength, into wisdom, into compassion. And the human body is not perfect. It has its limitations, its vulnerabilities, its imperfections. But it is also a marvel. It is a work of art. It is a precious gift. And taking care of your body, honoring your body, loving your body is a way of taking care of yourself, of honoring yourself, of loving yourself. It is a way of living a fuller, healthier, happier life. It is a way of connecting with your essence, with your soul, with your purpose. And life is a journey of learning, of growth, of discovery. A journey with ups and downs, with joys and sorrows, with challenges and opportunities. And the human body is your vehicle on this journey. Take good care of it. It will take you far. Precious, more vivid, more meaningful. When you know time is limited, you tend to value moments more, not to postpone what's important, to express love, to seek fulfillment. And there are different ways to think about death. Some traditions see it as an absolute end, the cessation of consciousness. Others see it as a transition, a passage to another state of existence. No one knows for sure what happens after death. It's a mystery that each person will have to face alone. But regardless of beliefs, there is value in making peace with mortality, in not living in denial, in allowing the awareness of finitude to inform how you live. And while you are alive, while this body functions, while this heart beats, this lung breathes, this brain thinks, there is an opportunity to experience, to learn, to love, to create, to contribute, to grow. And that opportunity is a gift unearned, simply given. You are here, you exist. And in that, there is something deeply extraordinary. So, as you rest, as you listen to or read these words, allow yourself to feel gratitude. Gratitude for the body you inhabit, for all its silent functions, for all its invisible processes, for all its remarkable capabilities. Gratitude for the breath that happens without command. Gratitude for the heart that beats without fail. Gratitude for the senses that open windows to the world. Gratitude for the mind that processes, that thinks, that feels, that dreams. And allow yourself to feel awe. Awe at the complexity, the elegance, the beauty of biological design. Awe at evolution, that long and blind process that over billions of years created beings so sophisticated, so adapted, so wonderful. Awe at the fact that you are simultaneously a unique individual and a manifestation of universal processes, of physical laws, of chemistry, of biology that apply to all life. And allow yourself to feel peace.
Peace in knowing that you don't need to control everything, that much of what sustains your life happens automatically, naturally, without conscious effort. Peace in trusting the body, in trusting its rhythms, in trusting its innate wisdom. Peace in accepting that you are part of nature, subject to the same laws, the same cycles, the same mysteries. And as this journey comes to an end, as these words become less frequent, as silence approaches, allow yourself to simply be. There is nothing you need to do now. There is no place you need to go. You can simply be here, breathing, feeling, existing. And in that state of simple being, of pure presence, there is a depth, a fullness, a sense that everything is okay, that everything has always been okay, that you are exactly where you need to be. The human body is a miracle, and you are that miracle. Not as an abstract concept, but as a lived reality, as a direct experience. Each sensation, each thought, each emotion is an expression of this extraordinary life that pulsates within you. And honoring that life, taking care of it, appreciating it, is one of the most meaningful things you can do. So breathe. Feel the air coming in, going out. Feel the body where it rests. Feel the quiet, the calm, the peace that is available always, in every moment, if you simply pause, if you simply pay attention, if you simply allow. And know that you can return to that feeling whenever you need to, that no matter how hectic life becomes, how stressful, how confusing, you always have the body as an anchor, as a refuge, as a home. You can always return to the breath, to the heartbeat, to the feeling of being alive. And in that return, there is renewal, there is clarity, there is strength. This has been a journey through the most relaxing facts about the human body. An exploration of how you work, of why you are this way, of what makes life possible. And although we have covered a lot, there is still much more to discover, much more to learn, much more to marvel at. The human body is an inexhaustible universe, and each person who chooses to explore it, understand it, appreciate it, is embarking on an endless adventure. May you sleep well, if you are going to sleep. May you rest deeply, if you are going to rest. May you feel nourished by these words, by this knowledge, by this contemplation. May you carry with you the awareness of how extraordinary you are, of how remarkable it is to simply exist, of how precious each moment of this brief and beautiful interval called life is. And if you enjoyed this journey, if these words brought peace, if this knowledge brought enchantment, consider sharing it. Leave a comment with your thoughts, your reflections, your own discoveries about the body. Like, share, allow others to also find this space of calm and discovery. Because information, when shared, multiplies. Peace, when offered, expands. And enchantment, when shared, becomes even deeper. Gratitude for your presence. Gratitude for your attention. Gratitude for your openness to explore, to learn, to contemplate. May you go in peace, carrying with you the remembrance that you are, in every cell, in every heartbeat, in every breath, a living miracle.